A Tiny Revolution features adults having adult conversations, which means that adult language is probably going to be present, just so you know. Hey everyone, you're listening to A Tiny Revolution, a podcast about ordinary people living revolutionary lives. My name is Kevin Garcia and welcome to the next episode, my boo. I am so glad you is here. I'm so glad that you're doing awesome. I don't know if you're doing awesome, maybe you're doing terrible, but regardless of where you are on the feelings spectrum or in the feelings cosmos, I want you to know that you're welcome here and I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me. Before we jump into the conversation, I just wanted to say another huge thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon. If you don't know about Patreon, it is an amazing way for you to support podcasts like these and other creatives in your life that are making the content that matters. So if you want to get some extra content, including extra questions with podcast guests, which is coming up in the next bunch of new episodes coming out, extra content from YouTube, meditations, Slack channels, free t-shirts from Queerly Beloved, my awesome and amazing t-shirt line that I know that you have already subscribed to our mailing list so that you can get a 10% off coupon, and you can go to www.queerlybeloved.shop, that's S-H-O-P, to get on that mailing list. I mean, I'm so certain that you've already done that, right? Anyways, all of those perks are included as a part of being a part of the community. So just go in, pick what reward works for you, and fund the queer future, my friend. If you haven't done it yet, even as little as $1, $2, $5 a month makes a huge difference in the amount of content we create and the way that we can produce it without me having to do a side hustle. So big thank you to all of that. Also, by the way, if you haven't already downloaded my new ebook, you can go to my my page, my website, thekevingarcia.com. There should be a pop-up because it's really annoying because I installed it like that, and you can just put in your email address and get the thing. It's going to be perfect. Coming up as far as speaking stuff is concerned, the weekend of March 15th, 16th, 17th, I'm going to be up in Rochester, New York, preaching at Artisan Church that morning, so feel free to come in and hang out with us for that a really amazing and fun time. And then around April 18th, I'm going to be up at Whitworth College for their Pride Week. I'm very, very excited to be at Whitworth College. Speaking about what we're doing, about the dialogue between Christian faith, sexual identity, and gender. It's going to be so much fun. I'll be doing a keynote and I think possibly a panel. So just if you're at Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington, or anywhere around that, let's do it. I look forward to being there with you. I'm trying to think of what else. I think that's everything. So let's go ahead and dive into it, shall we? Today's conversation is with my internet cousin and friend, Matt Nightingale. Matt Nightingale is an educator, musician, speaker, writer, and spiritual director living and working in North San Francisco Bay Area. In the North San Francisco Bay Area. I think grammar is cool, even when speaking, right? He's a teacher at Sonoma County Day School in Santa Rosa and a worship leader at The Quest in Novato. Matt's musical and creative exploits have included performing solo shows for the Tulsa Jazz Hall of Fame, singing the national anthem at two 49ers games, and a stint as a San Francisco gay men's chorus. For 17 years, Matt worked as a worship leading pastor at an Evangelical Covenant Church, serving in Redwood City, California, Houston, Tulsa, Seattle, and Santa Rosa. He's currently finishing a certification program in spiritual direction through the Journey Center in Santa Rosa. As a gay Christian, Matt is passionate about the intersection of sexuality, spirituality, and he works to create safe space for people exploring these identities. His TED Talk, Choosing Gratitude and Hope with his former wife, Luanne Nightingale, tells her story of their mixed orientation marriage, an evolving understanding of faith and sexuality, and a painful but necessary choice of divorce, all within the context of gratitude and hope. Matt is a proud father of Joshua, Jacob, Emily, and Zachary, and if you watch Matt's Instagram story, they're literally the most incredible humans ever. So I'm really, really excited to share this conversation that we had. And Matt, I'm sorry this is late. I know I said I would be up a month ago. Life happens. I am so sorry. But here it is. I love you. And the rest of you, you're going to love him too. So grab yourself your coffee, your wine, your tea, whatever time of day it is. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Unless you're in recovery, in which case it's 5 o'clock nowhere. Anyways, this is my conversation with my friend, Matt Nightingale.
I can't believe this is
Or-
the first time we've actually spoken to each other.
I know. The internet is so interesting like that.
Isn't it?
Because I have so many relationships with people. I'm just like, we've never actually hung out in real life, but like, I kind of know you.
Right.
And then when we hang out, it's like, oh yeah, we've always known each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
kind of love that.
I do too. I don't know. It makes the world smaller, in my
It
opinion.
does.
In the best way.
Absolutely, yeah. The internet has changed everything.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Especially because like if I didn't have the internet, like I would have never known about any of this stuff. Like
Yeah.
the power to Google the words gay and Christian together, like
Oh my
changed
gosh.
my life.
Yeah. Yeah, Twitter changed my life. Absolutely. I mean, I was already kind of aware of gay Christian stuff, but Twitter is where I connected with real people. Twitter is where I started meeting people. In fact, it's funny. I went through Facebook Messenger last night. I was looking at a message that I sent to you like years ago. And I was still in the closet, and I was actually tweeting under this anonymous identity, Jonathan David, another gay hubby. And so like I friended you and I was like, hey, that's me. And you're like, oh my gosh, I know that Twitter identity. It was kind of cool.
I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, he's getting free.
I know. Yeah. It was a process for sure. But yeah, thank God for Twitter.
And so we don't have like too much going into details. So people who may not know you, if you were describing yourself to someone who may not know you, like you're at a cocktail party, who would you say? Who's Matt Nightingale? What are you about? What's your thing?
Oh, man. Well, right now, it's funny because I've had all these different lives. I feel like I'm in this interesting second life right now. But I'm 47 years old. I'm a father of 4 children. I have a 23-year-old, a 20-year-old, and 17-year-old twins. I am an elementary school teacher. I teach transitional kindergarten at a private school here in Santa Rosa. And so I'm surrounded all day, every day by 4 and 5-year-olds, which is really sweet. And I'm a church music director. I did that for 20 years full time in evangelical churches. And now I do it part time at a funky little kind of evangelical-ish church in Novato, California, which is just about a half an hour north of San Francisco. So I'm grateful for that. So I kind of am a lot of different things. And I'm openly out gay man. I was married to a woman for 23 years. That's how I got all those kiddos. And
you weren't just like picking them up off the street. It's so weird.
I was not.
That's what I did to get my 4 kids.
There you go.
Snatched them from their mother's arms. Just kidding. That's not how I did it.
Yeah. So so that's.
Have kids.
Well, not yet. Not yet.
I love kids.
Yeah.
And I think they're beautiful and wonderful. My brother just had my second niece. Her name is Gwendolyn Mary Garcia. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you are so cute. And my youngest brother had his girl, little baby girl, until she grows up. Maybe she'll identify differently. We don't know. We'll see.
Right.
I'm hoping for at least one other queer person in like this generation of my family, because right now, like, I'm the only one.
You're the unicorn.
Yeah. Unicorn, wearing pink, dyeing my hair, piercing my nose.
Exactly.
So you were married for 23 years, and the process of I mean, like, I don't know what that process was like for you, but I suppose like it was one of those, you knew from like a really young age that you were attracted to men, and then you just tried to marry it away, or like what was that process like for you? I guess like what's like the story, if you want to share that.
Yeah, of course. So I knew I was gay when I was 10 years old, but it was 1981. And I was living in northern Indiana, and I was in a very kind of conservative fundamentalist household and church. I went to a Christian school. So my world was very, very small, very sheltered. And I didn't even really have a word for what I was. But I do remember one day in particular, when I was 10, I have this memory of myself just as a little 10-year-old boy crying my eyes out in the shower that night, because on the playground that day, somebody had said something about a homosexual. And I just,
Oh.
I remember like identifying with that and going, oh my gosh, that's what I am. And, but for
Mm.
me, it wasn't like this enlightening or helpful word. It was a horrible word, because when I realized that about myself, I just knew that I had to hide it. I knew I had to
Right.
pretend that it wasn't real or try to change it somehow. And it's crazy because now, as an elementary school teacher, I have lots of 10-year-olds in my life, and I look around and I go, "Oh my gosh, at that kid's age, I was holding this enormous, like, life-changing secret." And I knew, even at 10, that my parents couldn't handle this. I knew my church
Right.
couldn't handle this. I knew my school couldn't handle this. So I just had to shut up and carry it. And that's a pretty heavy thing for a little boy.
Yeah, isn't that so interesting that like something that like honestly doesn't really affect anybody else's life, like, but it'll affect your life so much. It's
Right.
like the way you say like they can't handle it. Like
Yeah.
I felt the exact same way. I'm just like nobody is going to understand this,
Hmm. Hmm.
man.
Yeah. And in Northern Indiana in 1981, there was not a lot of visibility for queer people.
Did you think that
Um,
you were the only one?
I don't know if I thought I was the only one, because I did have some kind of an awareness that there were others like me and that we were like broken and bad, you know.
Mm,
So even though I knew I was not necessarily alone, I sure didn't have any positive role models. I had no one to look to as like a positive queer person in my life. It was all
mm,
just kind of the negativity I'd heard from church, and kind of like those kind of scary, unmentioned, passages in the Bible.
right.
So yeah, I definitely had a really negative understanding of what it meant to be gay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was 10 when I realized that, and I kind of went through middle school, high school, even the first year of college, just really hiding that,
Yeah.
knowing
Did you go
full
to
well.
a did you go to like a state school or like a Bible Christian
No,
school?
I went to a little Christian college called Grace in Indiana, like
Mm,
literally 45 minutes down the road from my house. So very, again, very much within this little bubble.
right.
Um, and I, I don't know. I guess I just really thought that I could somehow do this. I could somehow make it work and hide. And I really always, from the time I was little, knew I wanted to be in ministry. I knew I wanted to have children. So I had this idea that I could somehow just pull off being a married husband.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I met my wife in my sophomore year of college, and she was a really good friend. And we had so much in common as far as music and as far as like values and what we wanted out of life. And we had so much fun together. And I thought, well, and this is very simplified, obviously, but if I can marry any woman, maybe I
Mm-hmm.
can marry her. And
Yo, I know
so
how
I
many times
did.
I thought that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I did. And obviously, well, I'll say this: for the first 8 years, um, I pulled it off. I kind of, like, no one necessarily knew. She didn't really have an idea. I had told her, as so many of us do, like, kind of hints of it, like I used to struggle with this, or have some questions or curiosity or whatever.
Yeah,
But
you know that there's a part in my life where just I struggled with homosexual, so same sex
yeah,
attraction. Excuse me, we didn't say
yes,
homosexuality,
no, yeah, same sex attraction, and
but
I
I just feel
had,
like God's calling me to just be married to a woman, just because that's like my call in this life. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, well, for me it was more like, that's all in the past. Oh, no, 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 I never struggle. So I was kind of lying, to be honest. I look back on that, but it was like so well intentioned. I never had any I never had any like malice in me. Like, I was not trying to
Right.
deceive and hurt somebody. It was more like, I want to do the right thing, and so I'm going to say and do whatever it takes to do the right thing.
Because we're trying to line up with our Christian values,
Uh,
because we
yeah.
know that to be a Christian is to follow the Bible, to follow Jesus, and
Hmm.
following Jesus means to take up your cross,
Right.
yada yada yada. There's nothing that God can't overcome.
Right. Absolutely. And even though I will say, like, since I knew this, like since 10 years old, I had been praying fervently. I've had some really interesting conversations with people in the last year or two who just cannot. They're more fundamentalist Christians who for them, it's very important that I'm either saved or not saved, right? There's this category in or out.
Wait, that you can't be gay and saved, lol.
Well, yeah, so exactly. But I've had some really loving people who love me very much say, I need to know whether you're saved or not. This is real important to them. And
Interesting.
and so I've had those conversations, and I've had to unfortunately say, well, according to your understanding of what salvation is, I'm not saved. And so for some of them that's helpful. They're like, okay, then I can stay in a relationship with you and try to win you over, you know? Which is
But
then,
if you wait, if you are saved though, does that mean that they can't talk to you anymore?
yeah, I mean, Kevin, you know the whole Matthew 19 scenario, right? Like, first,
Ugh.
if your brother's in sin, you go to them
Treat
privately.
them as a non-believer.
Yes. Well, so that's like, I know many people, especially from my former fundamentalist world, who just take that so very seriously. And
Mm.
so, yeah, if I were saved, quote unquote, they would need to like excommunicate me. They'd need to cut me out of their lives in the hopes that somehow that would cause me to come back to the faith as they understand faith, So that,
So weird. So, because like I would challenge them and be like, "Well, tell me, like, how are we saved?" And I would like the answer to that one is always by grace through faith, right?
right?
And so, like, it's nothing that I can do. It's about what God has already done. Like, there's no fancy prayer.
Yeah.
Oh my
Right.
gosh,
Yeah, it's hard.
it
And I've had this conversation with some who knew me as a child, and I've said, "Hey, like I was a fervent little boy, man. I was so spiritually sensitive. I was so tuned into God. I was
right,
like literally at the altar crying my eyes out at 12 and
mm-hmm,
13 years old, trying to give as much of myself to God as I could."
right,
And so I ask these people sometimes like, so was I never saved,
right,
or have I lost it somehow? And often they don't really have an
mm,
answer. They're like, well, I don't know, but all I know is that you can't be gay and a Christian, you know. So some either I was never saved or I lost it somehow, and that
so
makes
weird.
it
So that
is.
doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me anymore either. But I do remember. I do. I remember what that
Yeah,
worldview mindset is. I used to have it myself. And so it's pretty easy for me still to go, yeah, I get it. I understand exactly where you're coming from. That's been helpful for me in the last year or so as I've tried to kind of like step out more publicly and talk about this a lot more. Just to remember where I came from and to remember that that
right.
also was my perspective for so long. It's
Yeah.
helpful.
It
Yeah.
is. There's that's how like when I approach my family the same way. Like I don't know if you do this, but like um I treat my family. I give them like almost like a pass in some ways because
Mm,
I don't go in for Christmas dinner like uh wanting to promote the gay agenda
right.
directly. Indirectly, yes, but
Of course.
I don't go
We
in
have
there
an
like,
agenda, Kevin. Come on.
yeah, I'm still waiting on mine in the mail. It got lost somewhere.
Yeah.
Um the what's so interesting is that like my cousin Chuck, he is a pastor at a church, and I'm 90% sure they would not allow a same sex couple to be married in their church.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just wondering, like, when the day comes for my family, like, are y'all gonna show up for my wedding day?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's the real question because I'm just like I know y'all love me. I know y'all love me a
Yeah.
ton. You show it all the time.
Right.
But like this is where like you have to make some sort of like it's things like I guess it's something about like having like a public affirmation
Right.
of your homosexuality versus just like in private with family. I don't know why there's like that weird dichotomy, but all that to say is that totally get the I understand where they're coming from
Yeah.
scenario because like
Yeah.
the only way to have a conversation is to affirm like yes, I
Hmm.
understand why you believe what you do.
Yeah.
And now I want you to understand like the implications of why you believe what you do. This is how
Hmm.
it affects me.
Hmm.
And I
It's
think that's like where people don't go much past it. There's like, I understand what I believe, why I believe it, but it's like, and now how does it affect the world around me? I think that's where a lot of people in conservative mindsets drop the ball a little bit.
yeah, and I like this may sound crazy. I feel like sometimes I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I really I think that there's this whole movement now among conservatives, and in some ways I really appreciate it. I get it. They're trying to maybe atone for their homophobic behavior. They know
Mm-hmm.
that they have treated gay people poorly. They know that they have driven us in droves from the church, right? And
Right.
so they're kind of trying to make up for this. And I see this in, oh my gosh, I mean, like the work of people like, to name a name, Preston Sprinkle, who
Percy
is a,
Sparkles.
yes, who, God love him. That guy, I honestly believe he means the best. I really do. And I think he's trying
Mm,
his best based on his understanding of reality to love people, to help people. But I still believe, even though I appreciate his intentions, I still believe that his theology is harmful, right? So it
mm-hmm.
leaves me sometimes in this weird middle ground place, wanting to affirm his good intentions, his sincere desire to serve God as best he understands God and to help people like me. But I also believe that his theology is harmful and
Mm-hmm.
destructive and literally leads to LGBTQ teen suicide, like honestly.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to love and affirm and help and bless people where they're at, knowing that I was also there for many years. And also to tell the truth and to call them out and to stand firmly against toxic theology. Do you ever
Mm-hmm.
find yourself in that weird middle place?
100%. Like that's like I guess it's like the topic du jour right now, like on the
Yeah.
Twitterverse with like
Yeah.
Side B and
Mhm.
QCF and
Yes.
all that stuff coming up was where like but this is where I think it's interesting. Someone like Preston Sprinkle, who is a straight cisgender pastor who is saying this is what I think is best for gay Christians.
Right.
Not even LGBTQ Christians, just like gay
Right.
Christians, because like, heaven forbid he had a trans friend. Like I don't think it's
Right.
anyways, that's another
Right.
story for another time.
No,
But
I hear
it's
you.
it's that middle part. Like I think and I believe side B theology or any theology that says that same-sex relationships are not blessed, that um, anything that kind of like promotes purity culture kind of stuff, I think it's all harmful. I think it leads
Mhm.
to destructive behaviors both in the self and in others. Um, and at the same time, celibate gay Christians who are choosing that are queer. They're still queer. That's the
Yeah.
thing I have to continue to remember. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's not like this is a mantle that Preston Sprinkle has placed upon them. This is a mantle they took on themselves and said, like, you
Yeah.
know what? Based on my social location, understanding of scripture, this is
Mhm.
where I've landed right now. And I say, all right, cool. I think you're wrong and I think it's harmful and I love you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that when it's other queer people choosing to become celibate, that's where I say, you know what? I'm going to work as hard as I can to protect your dignity
Mhm.
and try to make any space I'm in as welcoming as possible, with the understanding that you know where I stand fully.
Yeah.
So because I have no problem like standing up in front of a crowd saying side B theology, any theology that does not say that queer people are completely loved for who they are, I think it's harmful and toxic.
Mhm.
Um, and I still want to figure out how to do this better, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like, um, it's like with like when working with Church Clarity, for example.
Mhm.
Like I appreciate and respect more pastors who may have a public non-affirming stance than pastors who do this like weird we love you, we want you to become a part of the family, but we're not going to let you get married in our churches, and we actually think homosexuality is a sin. Like those unclear people.
Right. Well, especially those people who will let you be in their church for a year before they get around to telling you that they're not affirming. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real trauma. That's the real harm that they do. I would much rather hear right up front. And that's what I try to explain to people. It was interesting. I think I got kind of into it with Preston Sprinkle on Twitter one time because he was so against church clarity. He was like, "That's not okay. It's not a simple binary." There, and I think they get frustrated because they're like,
Oh,
"We
don't
really."
use the word binary, Preston Sprinkle. You
I
live in the
know.
binary, Barbara.
Thank you. Yeah, no, exactly. And it turned into a productive conversation with him. I was glad to have it, but they want to be like, no, it's not so simple. They want to know, like, they want people to know that they're loving. I'm like, well, that's fine. You can be loving and non-affirming, I suppose, but be clear. It's a simple yes or no answer. It's a simple telling the truth. Do you or
What
do you
a
not
concept.
affirm? Right? Exactly. Exactly. Tell the truth. Yes or no. And they want to say, it's just not that simple. I'm like, yeah, actually it is. Yes or no.
It really is. And that
It's that
question,
simple.
And I always say, just like, these questions aren't fixed. Like, people can change over time. Like,
Yes.
who knows? Like, if the Holy Ghost comes to me and tells me that being gay is wrong, you bet your ass I will sign up for celibacy. First one on the boat.
Yeah.
I will burn Matthew Vine's book. I
Yes.
will I will become the greatest Christian alive. But until that day comes, you know, I,
That is so fascinating. So I'm not currently dating anyone, but I am talking with a guy, as some of us do,
ooh,
yeah,
you
and
dating, ooh.
yeah, pre-dating. But he told me that when we first started talking. He said, I don't like I'm totally gay. I'm totally like dating. I'm looking for a relationship. If God ever like came to me and told me this was not cool, you just need to know that I would follow God. And I was kind of a little like taken aback by that. Like, okay. He goes, I just want to be upfront. Like, I want to be open to the movement of the Holy Spirit in my life, and I want to be real. That if somehow I became convinced that this was wrong, then I would act on my conscience. So I don't suspect that'll ever happen, but I appreciated his saying that.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I would hope that if I am dating another Christian person,
Mhm.
like I would hope actually no matter who they are, I would hope
Mm.
that they would follow their convictions,
Exactly. That's the
because like
thing.
that's honesty, and honesty within
Mhm.
any relationship is so paramount. And what's so interesting, I think, like growing up within like hiding ourselves for so
Uh,
long,
uh-huh.
learning how to be honest, not just with like your opinions, but with your feelings and emotions. Like it is like I've only been out for 3 years, and I'm just now getting comfortable with standing on my own 2 feet and not worrying
Mm.
about pissing somebody off or somebody not
Mhm.
liking me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because I'm approaching 30, or if it's because I've just, had one relationship that, my first relationship was good in so many ways, not so great in other ways. And it
Right.
taught me I can't not tell the truth, you know?
Yes. Yes. 100%. I I think this is a fascinating discussion that really crosses all kinds of topics. Like I think about my sexuality story is one thing, but equally important in my life and completely interrelated is my kind of evangelical
Mm-hmm.
deconstruction of faith story too, right? Because
Right.
I was this very convinced fundamentalist Christian until I was in my, probably early 20s. And then over the course of the next decade or so, I became kind of this much more progressive evangelical Christian. And then in the last probably 5 or 10 years, I've become much more, ex-evangelical, definitely
Yeah.
like kind of very, very progressive, kind of universalistic, kind of mystic, whatever Christian that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's all about honesty. Like that is literally the bottom line. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have finally gotten to the place where I say to people, I can only believe what I actually believe. Like that's all there is to it. I've had so many people say, just believe, just believe. Well, you can't just believe something. You either do believe it or you don't. There's
Mm-hmm.
no like, and for so long I tried to believe things that in my heart of hearts I didn't actually believe were true. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's an intellectual honesty. Like just say the truth. What do you actually believe to be true? If you don't know, that's okay too. But
Mm-hmm.
just say it,
That's
right?
where I have landed so much recently. Let me tell you what, like, seminary has kicked my theological ass from
Mhm.
one side of the earth to the other.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And like the thing I've come down to is just like first semester, I'm just like, I don't know if I believe in like the literal resurrection and like a literal like anthropomorphized God. Like, how
Yeah.
does it even work? And I just came down to it and just like, you know what? Like, I don't know
Mm.
anything. Like,
Mhm.
I think that there is some sort of something that connects us all, that binds everything together and keeps it going.
Mhm.
Like that makes sense to me somehow. But
Yeah.
and that to me is what I name God.
Yeah.
Um, and then but like with everything else, I'm just like, is there an afterlife? I don't know. Is there, a spiritual dimension to this life? Probably. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Little virgin birth? Sure. If you need that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been fascinating for sure. But I do think it really does all come down to honesty, like
Hmm.
intellectual honesty. I think so much of evangelicalism is like just I don't know, assenting to a set of doctrines with which you
Yeah.
may or may not actually agree.
Yeah, it's
And
just
that's,
saying like this is what it means to be a Christian, and everyone's like, all
yeah,
right, I
yeah.
sign up for this. And a lot of people, I think it's we inherit it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, for sure. And that was the air that I breathed. It was like the water that I
Mhm.
swam in for my whole life.
And
Um,
like and also I grew up believing that we were the only Christians who were actually saved.
oh yeah.
Like, also just like I think it was like my little church. I was just like, if no one else comes to this, again, I was like a child, but just
Hmm.
like that was my impression of like if you didn't like believe Jesus like I believe Jesus, then
Yeah.
obviously you done. You done.
Well, yeah, and that's actually expressly communicated by many of these churches. Like, like we have the way. You know, the church I grew up in is a very small. They wouldn't even call themselves a denomination. It's called the Grace Brethren Fellowship, and
Interesting.
they had a couple different distinctives. Like for one thing, they baptized by triune immersion, so you had to go under the water 3 times, and then they'd go
Okay.
back. Yeah, and
Cool.
they would literally tell people. I remember this so clearly from my Bible class. Like, if you only went under the water once, like, good try. Like, I like your intentions, but you didn't get baptized. You got wet. My pastor literally said that. I'll never forget it. And I remember,
So
oh,
interesting.
yeah. And so there's this, I just can't believe looking back at the, uh, just the arrogance of this tiny little
Hmm.
denomination, honestly believing in their heart of hearts that they actually knew the actual truth and that everyone else didn't. You
Truth
know,
with a capital T.
I look back and I go, man, they think that 2,000 years of church history just kind of got it wrong. You know, like,
Yeah.
oops, good try.
Yeah. But then again, I guess other people would look at us, progressives and say, oh, they look at 2,000 years of church
Mhm.
history and they think that we got it wrong. I'm just like, actually, I don't think
True.
2,000 years of church history has anything to say about homosexuality. It wasn't really until the
Exactly.
last couple hundred years, maybe.
That
Maybe.
we even, yeah, that we even had a name or a concept for this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But of course,
absolutely.
in their eyes, like, Sodom and Gomorrah, blah, blah, blah.
Right. It was all about this, which, of course,
What's so
it
interesting
wasn't.
to me is like my family has seen me pre coming out and post coming out,
Hmm.
and I've had multiple people in my family tell me that like I look better, I'm happy, like they can tell that I'm happier, they can tell that I'm thriving.
Hmm.
And what I find so interesting is that like I tell them, I'm just like, I said the reason I'm so joyful now is because I wanted to kill myself before.
Hmm.
And so like to go from like wanting to end your life to being desperate to live is a huge change in
Yes.
behavior and thought and feeling. And um the more I talked, I made friends recently with a guy who was really really struggling with this, with the gay and Christian question. And
Hmm.
he just kept coming back to just like, I just want to be happy, I just want to follow God. I'm just like, guess what, good, like that's good, you should follow that. Like this, like there's no faith, if a faith makes you miserable,
Hmm.
like that should be a sign.
Yeah.
Like if like that means that it's something that's not worth following, in my opinion. It's like, but
Yeah.
and they trap people, like evangelicalism feels like a trap to me.
Mm. Yeah.
And it
I
takes
completely
so much
understand.
to get like, and not just a trap, like it's not like a physical trap, but just like you build this prison in your mind from the time you're really really
Mhm.
little.
Mhm.
And you never need a watchdog because God is watching you from like this central tower, making sure you
Right.
don't fuck it up. And if you do
Right.
fuck it up, it's your fault.
Yeah, it's
It's just,
very much, I mean, I literally believe it's brainwashing, you know, and
yeah.
that's pretty harsh, but I think it's true. Um, and I think, you know, it's fascinating you talking about kind of if it makes you miserable, it's not worth doing, right? And there's several things that come to mind. I think one of the best, most helpful things for me and maybe for kind of non-affirming Christians to read is Blue Baby's Pink by B.T. Harmon.
100.
Right? I'll never forget. Like I don't remember exactly where I was. I think I was out already when I read it, but still, the way he describes, you know, himself as an evangelical who had traditional Christian values, who believed it was wrong to act on his same sex attraction, but kind of you read this earnest, sincere, loving, faithful Christian, but you see over time how his life just leads him to despair. It leads him
Hmm.
to emptiness and sadness and loneliness. And he was doing everything right. He was doing everything the people in control told him to do. And I look at
Right.
my life in the same way. Because after being married for so long, I was very invested in my life that I had built with my wife. We
Mm-hmm.
I didn't I didn't say this part, but like I came out to her after 8 years, and we stayed together for another 15. So people are
Holy
sometimes like,
shit.
what? Yeah. Because when I came out to her back in 2002, I was still very convinced that it was wrong, that
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be healed. And that was, early 2000s was kind of the height of the ex-gay movement.
Yeah, I
We literally
remember.
there was like people on the cover. I think John Polk, who was with Focus on the Family at the time,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think he was on the cover of like Time or Newsweek or something. There was this whole like very visible national media attention on like ex-gay people. And I remember thinking like, this is my hope. This is my chance to
Mm.
like actually be free. And so it's interesting. I look back, this was my first coming out, right? It was 2002, and it was as significant to me as my more recent kind of different kind of coming out was,
Mm-hmm.
because I was being honest for the first time.
Right.
I was telling people, I told my wife, I told close friends, I told my ministry leaders that I was same sex attracted, and it was terrifying. I honestly thought I might lose my children, I might lose my home, I might lose my ministry. But
Mm-hmm.
what I found was, and this is where it gets complicated, right? What I found was tons of grace and tons of love and tons of support. And I got into therapy and kind of these ex-gay programs, and my amazing wife like stuck it out, right? I mean, so many
Right.
would have been just done. She stuck it out. She believed that I could change, and so did I. And that my pastor, the people in my life, I never had to step away from ministry. Like
Mm-hmm.
I got to keep serving. I got to keep doing what I felt called to do, as
Mm.
long as
Right.
I was working on it, as long as I was doing these things that would somehow fix me. Um, so I look back on those times as like, I don't know, kind of like precious, honestly, because I was being honest for the first time, and I
Mm-hmm.
was I was finding like actual acceptance, and
Yeah.
love from the closest people in my life. And I had all this camaraderie with all these gay men who were like, "Yeah, we're gonna beat this," you know.
Oh
And
my God, yes.
I'm just telling, like it was kind of cool,
Yeah.
but I now see that it was just another kind of prison, honestly.
Yeah.
It was a better prison, maybe, because I was able to tell the truth, and I was
Mm-hmm.
able to like find that kind of acceptance, and I wasn't hiding anymore necessarily. But I was just putting on another burden that I believe Jesus
Mm-hmm.
came to free us from.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that led to like 15 years of really trying to make it work with my wife and my kids and my life. Um, and it was only in the last 5-6 years that I kind of got to this breaking point and realized, and again, just like Brett Harmon or BT Harmon, um, I just got to the point where I was not thriving, and neither was my wife. In fact, I looked at our lives and I saw the trajectory of kind of where we were going from that moment in 2002 when I came out to her, and I could only see like less trust, less peace, less love, less harmony, less um, joy. We would look at our future, like after our kids would leave the house, and go like, "Gosh, what's it going to be like?" You know. And I
Yeah.
didn't see a thriving future. I saw a future of just kind of like hanging in there. And
Yep.
I thought that's, and I actually on Twitter, it was my kind of alter ego Twitter account where I
Mm-hmm.
met this woman named Mary Nichols, who's married to a gay man. Very interesting story there. And they've stayed together. But she's the one who said to me, Matt, there's no abundant life in the closet. And that sentence like changed my life forever. There's no abundant life in the closet.
That's it.
And there were moments along the way where different people spoke truth to me, and that was one of those moments where I just went, something has to change.
Right.
There's no like abundant life. There's no freedom. There's no real joy as long as I'm hiding, as long as I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
trying to be this person that I'm really not. As long as I'm trying to fit
Mm-hmm.
into a mold that feels so foreign to me. Because even though I had done it for 23 years, I still, every fucking day of my life, felt like I was putting on a costume,
Gosh.
every day.
Yes. Yes. Everything that you said just now
resonated so deeply with me because like the part about putting on a mask, I obviously was not married for 20 some odd years.
Right.
But the part where the thing I remember, I was sitting in an ex-gay, well, it wasn't even an ex-gay group. It was actually just the generic men's group at my church.
Yeah.
For everybody who struggled with porn and masturbation
Right.
and cheating on their
All
wives.
that stuff.
Yeah, because being a gay person who's never kissed another gay person is obviously
Oh,
the same issue as
adultery.
infidelity.
Yeah.
You
Oh my
know,
God. Yep.
so but I remember sitting there one night and like my group leader was trying to say, hey, I totally understand what you're going through, and I literally stopped him and I said, no you fucking don't. I said, unless you're telling me that you're gay, in which case let's have a conversation, but you don't know what it's like to be me, you
Yeah.
don't know what it's like to walk through this, and on top of that, I don't want to be straight. I
Mm.
said, like, because when I before I came here, like this felt natural.
Mm.
Like me being gay felt just like as natural as breathing air.
Yeah.
And just liking boys felt so like why I didn't like I got to a point where just like it didn't make sense in my body, but I still held on anyways for probably another 4 years.
Yeah.
Just hoping that God was going to bring me the one, just like my one wife that's going to make it all better.
Right.
But like that part of just like being queer to me is so normal, and it makes me feel like myself.
Yeah. Gosh.
Like I don't think you can like put a price on that, in my opinion, or really describe it to someone who's never been able to go through that process. Like the coming out for me was I'm not a new person. I'm myself for the first time. Like that's really what it did for me.
I resonate so strongly with what you're saying. I've been thinking recently, like, well, just talking with this guy that I'm talking to, and this is I've dated a couple guys. I had a boyfriend for a short time, but I'm still pretty new, just like you are, to be honest. I mean, I've had one like public boyfriend who actually met my children, and but I just realized recently, I guess this isn't a new idea, but I just was like, how nice that I'm thinking about like relationships and communication, and I'm thinking about compatibility, and I'm thinking about like the way that we fit together. I'm not thinking about gay. It's no longer
exactly.
It's no longer about gay dating. It's about dating. It's no longer about gay relationships. It's about relationships. It's about, hey, how do I fit with this man? And I don't have to, like, it was so new and so novel for the first couple of years. And it still is, to be honest. But for so long, it was about the gay part. And I love that I've finally gotten past that. And I'm like, now I'm really able to focus on just relationship, just on like, what do we fit together? What's he like? And I don't think all the time in my head, like, this is a gay relationship. This is new. This is novel. This is unique. It's just we're two people trying to figure out if we fit together or not. And
it's almost like all of the brain space that we had taken up.
Yeah.
On all those years, like I think about it almost just like, how can some computer programs will tell you like how much RAM is being used by certain programs on the computer. Like that for me was taken up, like 98% of it was taken up by don't be gay, don't be gay, don't be gay, don't think about boys, and also don't masturbate, and also all these different. I was like, wow. And so now on the other side of that, it's just like, oh, I don't like, I have so much brain space. Like I can think about so many other things. Like, holy crap, I should probably clean my apartment. Or
oh my gosh, totally 100% agree. I remember when I was toward the end of my marriage, I was really actively seeking help. I didn't know what to do. I felt very, very trapped for the last couple of years. Because I genuinely loved my wife. I genuinely loved my kids. I genuinely loved my life. I didn't want to destroy it. I didn't want to blow it up. But I also knew that I could not thrive in that place for much longer. And I didn't know what that meant. So I was actively looking for like therapists who could help. Right. So I found this wonderful therapist, Candace Zubernat. I'm sure you know her.
Yes, from the Christian Closet.
Christian Closet. So just shout out to Candace. And I began to do some work with her. And I'll never forget one day she said to me, and honestly, like I was looking for a therapist who could do three things. Number one, who could 100% affirm me as a gay man. Number two, someone who really deeply understood my Christian faith and would not try to change that. And then number three, someone who wouldn't necessarily have a vested interest in my coming out and leaving my marriage. I really wanted someone who could be neutral, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I found that Candace was really safe in those ways. And there was a place where there was a time, however, when she said to me something like, I was talking about songwriting and about creative stuff, because I'm a creative, I'm a songwriter, I'm a writer. And she said to me, Matt, can you imagine how much like brain space you would have to focus on these kind of creative endeavors if you weren't all the time preoccupied with how to make this straight life work, you know? And it was so interesting because when I finally did come out, I had this crazy like creative spurt right at the beginning where I was writing songs where I was no longer censoring myself. And I found that I was writing these like beautiful love songs that used the right pronoun, you know, and how freeing and wonderful that was to be able to sing about my love for a man and just go, oh my gosh, look, I'm actually free to write again. That's been really cool. Because I do think we spend an awful lot of mental energy trying to hide our true selves. And I think once we come out, and it might take a while. I mean, I'm only 2.5 years out of the closet, so I'm right behind you as a much older man than you. But I feel like every day that goes by, I'm a little bit more myself. I'm a little bit more honest and authentic in the way I live my life. And honestly, like the more I'm out, the less, like I said, the less it is about being gay, and the more it is just about being myself. And I guess, you know, I'm aware, and I'm super grateful that it's 2018. I'm aware that I live in, you know, Northern California, where even my kids, you know, they go to high school here in the same city where I live, and they have so many gay and trans friends. It's so beautiful. My children, when I came out to them only 3-4 years ago now, you know, at the time they were like 13, 14 years old. And they were like, we're proud of you, Dad. We love you. We support you. Like, how
I'm going to cry. Oh my God.
Right? You have no idea, Kevin. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And it was shocking to them. It was a paradigm shift because they, you know, you don't expect your dad who is married to your mom and who's a worship pastor to be gay. You just don't expect it.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, my wife, Luanne, and I had been working very hard for many years to like have a loving and inclusive family, because we knew that no matter what happened, whether I left our marriage or not, I would be coming out to our kids someday. I wanted to be honest with them. And so I think we had been working pretty hard to create a home where LGBTQ people were normal, where it was okay. And so when I did come out to my kids, it was like we had provided a foundation for them to be able to say, wow, God, we accept you, we love you. So I can't tell you what a gift it is to have the children that I do. I mean, I have 4 children and I have these beautiful relationships with them even now. My daughter, she likes to swipe Tinder with me. Like, how cool is that? She really does. She's like, I don't know, Dad. I think he's cute. I think he'd be good with you. I'm like, thank you. So it's just a gift. It's a real gift to have those children who really get it and who really love me.
Not to mention just like seeing them on your what's it called, your Instagram story is like my favorite. I'm like, they're literal rock stars.
They really are. My kids are so musical. Like, so check this out. This Sunday at my church, I have 3 of my 4 children and we're going to be like the band. My daughter's playing guitar and singing, and my son is playing bass and singing. My other son is playing drums and singing, and we're doing this in the round acoustic set, and it's just the 4 of us.
That's disgusting. And I love it so much.
So excited. It's going to be a great Sunday.
Oh my God. Sounds so gay.
It's so good.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we could probably go on to a zillion other things.
We could.
But conversations past an hour, people tend to zoom out.
Totally.
But before we hang up, first of all, I want to say thank you for jumping on the line with me and sharing this part of your story that I didn't know. I'm really proud of you. Like, I'm just like proud of us in general. Like, it's been a crazy 3 years to come out during, and like,
It has.
but like, I'm really, really glad that we're doing it real big.
Me too. I'm smiling great big right now.
Me too. So cheers to you. I'm raising my glass and taking a sip.
Yes.
So before we hang up, would you please tell people on the internet where they can connect with you and your work? And I know that you're also trying to get booked for 2019. So how can people contact you?
Book me. You can go to my website. It's mattnightingale.com. And that's where you'll find like all the different podcast interviews I've done. That's where you'll find the TED Talk that my former wife and I did. That's where you'll find a lot of the blogging and writing that I'm doing. You can check out my church. I just want to celebrate them for a minute. They're called The Quest, and they are in Novato, California, and they are a 100% open and affirming congregation. And I'm so grateful for them and the way they've embraced me and the way that they allow me to lead them and worship every single Sunday. That's a gift. And yeah, follow me on Instagram. Everything is just Matt Nightingale, and it's Nightingale with an I, Nightingale.
Well, then I spelled it wrong. I'm sorry. I'll make sure to get it right. I'll make sure to get it right.
So that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I love meeting new friends. In fact, just yesterday, I got this Facebook message. This happens a lot, from a guy in India who happened upon my TED Talk, and he was just reaching out and saying like, I was married too, or I am married too, and I'm gay. And so I love meeting new people and helping them connect. There's a huge community of us, by the way, on Facebook. It's a secret group that I can help connect people to. If you're gay and married in a mixed orientation marriage, there's hundreds of us who would be very happy to connect with you, help you, no matter what you choose. Some people choose to stay married. Some, like me, choose to divorce and live a different life. But there's a lot of support out there. So I just really want to encourage people. Find me on Facebook, find me wherever. I'm happy to connect and help you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Matt Nightingale, you are about to blow up in 2019. I can already tell.
All right, amen. Let's do it.
Listen, I speak it, I name it, I claim it,
yes,
like a
Lord.
good Christian. No. And what was the other thing? And for those of you wondering of who BT Harmon is, I will link his blog below because I've sent that to a few people.
So good.
It is so good. That was my conversation with my friend Matt Nightingale. You can follow him across social media at Matt Nightingale. That's Nightingale with an I, so Nightingale. Sorry, my southern accent got real heavy just then. And he's Matt Nightingale across all the social medias, Instagrams and Twitters and all that good stuff. Matt, I loved talking with you, so thank you so much for joining me today. A Tiny Revolution is supported by 138 amazing humans on Patreon. And I know that I said that at the top of the show, but let me give you just a little bit of taste of what you're getting. I just started creating bonus content for everyone who's one of my... Well, if you're at $5 or more per month. $1 gets you on the newsletter. $5 gets you on everything else. So if you haven't already, you can check that out. We've got t-shirts, a Slack channel, coaching calls, like you name it. It's a really, really fantastic community of people that's growing. So if you want to be a part of the fun times, join us on Patreon. 138 people have already said they love doing this and joining in with the community. So please, if you would be so kind, go to patreon.com/thekevingarcia and learn how you can become a sustaining partner today. Additional way that you can support the podcast is by leaving us a rating. Simple as going in your Apple, your podcast app and leaving 5-star reviews, saying something nice, and then sharing it with your friends. So if you're not backing me on the Patreons, BB, the least you could do is to do that. Not to guilt trip you, but to guilt trip you, you know what I'm saying? Because it's 2019, and honey, we got to pay our bills. What else is going on? Download the new ebook if you haven't already. It's delightful, full of essays. You can get that at thekevingarcia.com. What else? Yeah, follow me on the social medias, I guess, which is I'm at the Kevin Garcia across most platforms. And if you want to submit anything to the Decent Advice podcast, you can go to thekevingarcia.com/decentadvice and leave me a little message. I'd also just love to hear from you too. So feel free to drop me a line. I'll try to get back to you if I can. I'm really bad about messages on Facebook, to be honest. So anyways, I love you. You're wonderful. So until next time, please
go talk to your therapist, take your medication, eat something good, move your body. We just got this new weight machine installed in the basement, like one of those like multi-use ones, and it's so good because the other one was literally broken and dangerous. And so now I'm gonna get so sexy. So if you thought that I was hot now, wait until summertime, BB, because I might not have six-pack abs, but I'm definitely gonna have a snatched waist. I don't know why I'm talking like that. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to another episode of A Tiny Revolution. My name is Kevin Garcia, and I'll talk to you soon, babe. Bye.